Welcome to the Finance Marketing Podcast, a show that empowers finance professionals to market their businesses in ways that feel good and actually achieve results. I'm your host, Hillary. I've been working with folks in financial services to develop marketing strategies that work and create results-oriented marketing content since 2020. And I've learned a lot about what works in finance marketing, what doesn't work, and where financial services pros get stuck. Join us each Friday as we explore real, effective ways to market your finance business and connect with folks who truly embody your ideal clients. I'm so excited to welcome Virginia Elder to the Finance Marketing Podcast this week. Virginia is the founder of Podcast Abundance, which is the leading provider of audio and video podcast production support for financial services professionals. Now, her business launched in 2019 after Virginia attended her second FinCon event, and several friends there insisted that she launch their shows since she had successfully launched hers on her own. Now, Virginia and her team help financial professionals gain authority, attract clients, and educate their listeners with this quote-unquote automatic marketing arm that is podcasting, while they focus on growing their business instead of spinning their wheels creating their own online media. Now, Virginia and I first met at the Women in Money event put on by FinCon in the summer of 2023, and then reconnected that fall at the main FinCon event in New Orleans. So if you know anything about me by now, it is that I am a huge fan of FinCon, and I think every financial professional who is a content creator should absolutely go to FinCon if they can. Anyways, since then, Virginia and I have been following each other online. We have swapped client project ideas, and I have just been so impressed with the work that she does to help financial professionals leverage the power of podcasting. So in today's conversation, Virginia is sharing her best tips for how financial advisors and coaches and other financial services providers can use podcasts to build their brand, grow their thought leadership, and get more clients. And she dives into some really key strategies here so that podcasts are actually business generators and not just passion projects that you're pouring time, energy, and probably money into. So she talks about the importance of including clear calls to action in and throughout your episodes, and having what she calls a targeted in or out statement to define your audience well right from the start. So if you've been thinking about starting a podcast or you want to make your current show more effective, this episode is packed with valuable tips from Virginia to help you get started or improve your process. So let's dive in. I'm so excited to welcome Virginia to the Finance Marketing Podcast today. Virginia, it's great to have you. How are you?
Thank you, Hillary. I'm excited to be here. I am doing great. Thank you so much.
Good. Well, I'm really excited to pick your brain. You and I have had the pleasure of connecting in person at a couple different conferences over the past year or so. I was almost exactly a year. And it's just been so fun to connect with you. So I would love if we could start, if you would just tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think we really connected well because we're both service providers for financial professionals. So I thought that was so cool. I own a podcast management company. So we provide audio and video podcast post-production, and that always includes like show notes and like the full podcast management. I saw about 5 years ago, personally, how hard it is to record and produce your own show and do all the things that come with it. And once I figured that out very quickly, a few friends were like, you should produce my show. And I was like, wait, but no. Okay, fine. So I definitely was like pushed in this direction, but it's been a blessing in disguise because I do love personal finance and personal development type podcasts. And so now that's what I get to listen to all day and I get paid for it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is the best. So you said, you do post-production, but you also have a lot of thoughts about what it takes to create a great podcast and how to structure your podcast. I'm excited to dive into that today. Do you feel that you work with your clients in almost like a podcast coaching role as well, in addition to just kind of taking their video or their audio files and turning it into a lot of content?
Yes, absolutely. There's a big coaching component that goes along with this. No matter how mature you are in your career, when you start to think about getting on camera, getting behind the mic, and actually speaking your expertise, for some reason, there's a bit of fear there for
Mhm.
most people. And I find the only people that don't have fear around that, they have already been on the radio, they've already been in the news or whatever. And they're just kind of used to that already. So it's no problem for them to start a podcast, right?
Mhm.
But for most of us, we haven't been behind the mic very long or on video very long. So there's a lot of personal fears about how you look, how you sound, what happens if you mess up, all of those issues. We all say like and and these different verbal crutches is actually what they are. But we all do them and then we're afraid to do them suddenly on camera. So you can be the most confident, most knowledgeable, best financial advisor in your state, but then when it comes to getting on camera or getting behind the mic, there is definitely some coaching that happens there. And then, of course, just the whole what equipment do I need? And what should my background look like? And where should I
Mm.
be? And should I interview or should I do solos? And there's suddenly a list of like 50 questions. And so that's a big part of the onboarding process is getting people comfortable with what they need to do, what serves their brand best, and how they can feel most comfortable sharing their expertise, whether you're on camera or not, from behind the mic. Does that look like interviews for you?
Mm.
Maybe, maybe not. And we
Mm.
just talk through that.
I love that. I remember because the Finance Marketing Podcast is not my first podcast. I also co host another podcast with a business partner of mine called Teachers Make the Leap. And it was our first podcast ever. We had both guested on a few podcasts, but that's different, right? When
Mm-hmm.
you have someone asking the questions and interviewing you, that's a little bit different. And I remember for our first 3 episodes, I mean, we wrote out word by word scripts to keep us and not only, I mean, was that unsustainable, I don't think it made for very great listening as well. And so it did take us a little while to really get comfortable behind the mic. I'm curious to hear, how do you feel about scripts for podcasts?
Yeah, definitely. It's right for some people and it's not for others.
Hmm.
If not having a script literally means you won't produce content,
Yep.
we're going to go with the script because the most important thing is that you get your expertise and your voice out there. And so if leaning on a script as sort of a, crutch will help ensure that you're creating something and you just start to get some experience behind the mic or on camera, um, that's what we're going to do. But if you can have an editor, have someone work with you that can coach you and get you more comfortable, your learning curve is going to be faster. And no matter what you do, let's just be real, those first couple episodes are going to be cringe no matter what.
Yes, they
and,
are.
and if you look back, like let's say you're 10, 20, 50 episodes in, and you look back at episode 1 and you're like, I was pretty great. Well, that just means that you actually haven't grown.
Hmm.
So we actually really want to see those first few cringe episodes so that you can feel and see tangible growth
Right.
as a host or as a creator. So um, some people need a script, absolutely. You can grow out of that script. Sometimes it's more by force. But that's a good thing, and it's all part of the process. You can't be this amazing podcaster, YouTuber, whatever it is that you want to be without having gone through that growth.
Right. Yeah, I heard, and you were probably in the same session at last year's FinCon, but I heard Paula Pant say on a panel, every single podcaster, I mean, she has one of the top podcasts that has ever existed, right? And she says, my first few episodes,
cringe. Then I get 100 episodes in, and 100 episodes later, I'm looking back at the first 100 episodes and I'm like, cringe. And that was so much permission for me to just start creating and to just get my voice out there, because you can really have an impact even if you know what you're creating isn't perfect or doesn't feel 100% comfortable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so many people want this studio style, perfect lighting, background, this ideal setup from episode 1. And we all have to kind of step back and give ourselves permission, and not just permission to create and get started with what you have, but also the permission to allow growth, right? Is this studio style vision that you have sustainable? Do you have time to go to the studio like every week or every other week? Or let's even say you're batching and you're amazing at it. So you go to the studio once a month and you record 5 episodes because you want to get ahead. Do you have that time? Can you get those people to book with you for those 5 episodes on the day that you want? Does this even make sense? So there's a big sustainability factor as a working professional or a business owner that you really have to consider before you really start any endeavor. And a lot of times, I mean, you and I are both in our home offices right now.
Yep.
A lot of times the shows that we're producing are from someone's home office. It doesn't have to be a studio. It doesn't, I mean, we're not Oprah yet. Okay.
I will be the first person to tell you that my background makes me cringe a little bit. And it is what it is. It's not going to stop me from interviewing amazing people like you and from having the conversations that I want to have, things like that. My minimum viable product right now is I need a room with a door that I can close because I have a 2-year-old running around.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
well, and I am, like I said, in my home office. My husband's over. You can't see him. He's outside of the frame, but he's working over there. He just kicked the dogs out of the room for me. I pulled my desk. It's on wheels. I pulled it over into this frame to where you can't see what else is going on outside, right? My kids are at camp. Like, we have to realize that even when something appears perfect, like let's say you could see my whole room and it was like perfectly clean and staged and whatever. Okay, well, did I just like throw everything in the closet that was the clutter? Like that is what's happening. Like, we're not going to have this Instagram style perfect frame. There is life happening for all of us outside of that. So yes, you can do what you can, get a cute plant. I mean, you have lots of beautiful plants in your office. Like, fix it up if you can, but it does not have to be this staged studio style show just for you to get started.
right.
The important piece is that you start creating with what you have and you create a sustainable production workflow for yourself.
Right. Well, I would love to ask you, because before I hit the record button, we were talking about, you have some guidelines for how people, finance professionals in particular, can structure their podcasts, because most finance professionals that I know are starting podcasts because they want to build their brand. They want to increase their thought leadership, and ultimately they want to grow their businesses. They want to get more clients. And so what are some things they can do to create a podcast that helps them reach those goals?
Yeah, absolutely. So, same thing. I help financial professionals walk through this all the time. So, the biggest missing pieces I often hear is, let's start with the first one, no call to action in the episode. So we could be listening and loving all 100 of your episodes, but if you have never told me how to do business with you, I don't know how to do business with you. I can't buy your thing. I can't sign up. I don't know that you have a webinar next week that I would love to attend, right? So there has to be not just the information for your episode conversation, but there has to be a call to action to let people who do already know, like, and trust you and love you, how do we take the next step? You need to tell me in your episode. So that's a big, big missing factor in a lot of shows where someone has produced a handful of episodes, right? It could be 20, 50, whatever. And they're going, oh, I'm just not getting traction. I'm not getting any business from my show. And a lot of times the complaint is that it's starting to feel like a waste of time because you're not seeing that ROI. So there has to be that call to action. The other kind of obvious missing pieces are right at the beginning in the introduction of your show for anybody, right? This can be a financial professional. This can be, it could be a health coach. Who cares? You have to have some kind of what I call an in or out statement. So this show is for families of 5 or more who want to get their budget on track and pay off debt, right? Either I'm in or I'm out. It has to be this very clear statement of who you're serving and who you're talking to. And it can't be female professionals. That's too broad.
Right.
It has to be a very specific subset of people. And generally the formula to that is, and you can mess with the statement a little bit to make it sound like you, but it needs to be, this show is for people who and who. So the people, you're describing them, right? So that's families of 5 or more. And then the who would be who want to get their budget on track and who want to pay off debt. So that's a complete in or out statement. So just use that formula, fit in your own pieces there, but that in or out statement will really help listeners within those first 30 seconds of your show decide this show's for me or this show's not for me. The fear around that and why most people don't do this is that, oh, but that means some people are going to hear this and immediately turn off my show. That's a good thing.
That's the point.
Yes, that's a good thing. Thousands and thousands of listeners mean 0 if you're not getting $0 out of it, right? If none of those people are converting because you're speaking to all the wrong people. If you had just 100 really dedicated, perfect target market, families of 5 or more, I just keep using that example, right? And everybody who listened was that demographic and had those desires about getting their budgeting and paying off debt, every single one of those people is likely to sign up for your webinar, download your free things, sign up for whatever your offers are. And that's how you're going to convert between having that in and out statement and having your very clear call to action.
And just tactically, I have a couple of follow-up questions. These are such great tips. Just tactically, do you recommend having both of those things, the first one in the intro of, that just comes at the beginning of every single episode, and then that call to action is in the outro?
Great question. So I would definitely have your call to action in the outro. What I would also do, especially for a host of your own show, I would create a little 30-second like mini commercial to where you literally have your talk, have your guest, do whatever. And during the editing process, you find a spot within the first 20% of your episode. So however long your episode is, do the math, figure out your 20%, stick that commercial in there. And it's literally a commercial, just like what you would see on TV or hear on the radio. Put a little jingle with it or something so that we know we're not hearing the conversation anymore, and have that call to action in the first 20% of your episode, because as much as it hurts to hear it, not everyone listens to the whole episode, right? People run out of time. They arrive at their destination and turn off their podcast because they've got to go run the errand, whatever it is, they may not actually hear the outro. But if you insert that commercial, they're much more likely to hear how they can, again, take that next step with you.
And is that typically different for everyone? Are most financial services providers that you're working with, is that, to book a discovery call, or is it to sign up for a newsletter? Do you see any trends around what that call to action might be?
Yeah. Okay. Awesome questions. Yes. So the call to action, what I want everybody listening to think about is all you have to do is get them to do the first step with you. So even though you want them to buy your big baller package, high price, whatever package, you're not going to try to sell that on your podcast. You're going to back way, 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 way up and think about what is the very first step that someone needs to take to get into what I'm going to call my business ecosystem. So
I use that term as well.
You love it. Oh, good. Okay. Yay. So yeah, how does somebody just enter into your business ecosystem? Is that getting on your email list? Usually that's the first step. Most people don't want more emails. So the best way to serve them, but still get them on your email list, is to give them a free download, a free spreadsheet that they have access to, a free recording that's like a, non-published on your podcast, but maybe it's like a kind of a secret, like my top 10 super tips or something like that. Something enticing that's going to help this listener so they want it, but it's also going to allow you to have their email address and get them in. And then you can start nurturing them and they'll buy eventually because they already like you.
I love that so much. That's exactly, this is exactly what I would say too. So
Okay.
It's like, this is great. I also, one thing that I just want to add here too is, when I started my first podcast, we just wanted to start podcasting. We wanted to start getting stuff out there, and we hadn't had time to create that free download yet.
Right.
It was down the road. And so, that was a real barrier for us. It was, we have to find the time to create this thing. So we can't actually start podcasting yet, that kind of thing. And I just want to throw in there, for those first few episodes, we just said, sign up for our newsletter. That was our way. Just if we could capture anyone that we could capture, it at least wasn't going to be a barrier to us starting podcasting. And then we did eventually create the free download and added that into episodes. So I love this notion of just kind of like taking things one step at a time. And if you feel like there's something holding you back from getting started, there's usually a way around that, right? It's not always black or white.
Yes, absolutely. And I would say some people don't have a call to action for, maybe 10 episodes.
Sure.
I would prefer you have a call to action. Like you said, y'all were just saying, get on our newsletter list, basically, join our newsletter. That's awesome. Any call to action, just something, right? So that you just get used to making the ask, because there's fear around making that ask also. There's fear of being salesy or sounding slimy for some reason. The point with this call to action piece is not to convince or persuade or trick people into buying your thing or downloading your thing. It's literally just an ask. If they want to take that next step with you, they will. You don't have to persuade them into it.
Right. Yeah, you're just offering.
Yeah.
I love that. So going back to the in or out statement at the beginning, which I love that so much. Do you find that that's difficult for a lot of people to fill in?
Yes. That is something that when you are like scripting those first few sentences, for one, gone are the days when you have a 2-minute introduction of who you are and what college you went to and all these things about you. Again, this might be hurtful to some, but nobody cares. when your listener clicks on your show, they clicked on it because of the headline, right? Either their show name, your episode title, something caught their attention and they want that information.
Mm-hmm.
There is a component of your expertise that they want to know who they're listening to and why you're the expert on that thing. That actually comes in time. And I recommend that you do some solo episodes here and there just to maintain that expertise, right? If you are doing interviews all the time. But at this point, they are looking for 30 seconds or less of an introduction. So that's actually pretty challenging to script, to be able to get in this in or out statement, say who you are, why you're doing this, kind of like what's the point of your show and what the listener is going to get all within 30 seconds. It's actually very challenging. So use ChatGPT to help you out. Like rearrange sentences, give it to a friend, say, hey, what do you think about this? That piece is probably one of the pieces that you need to spend the most time on creating. And don't take this as like, great, I can't start my show until another barrier. Let's not introduce new barriers. Create a statement, keep it in 30 seconds. You may refine and change that statement, just like we talked about your background or your commercial. You can redo anything. Right. There are no rules here. You can make your show as long or as short as you want. There are no rules. So create something. Go back to it in 5 episodes, in 10 episodes. Check that it's still aligned with your mission, with your business, with your personality, what you want to accomplish. So it is challenging, but just it's almost like you need to roll with it and change it as you get down the road.
Yeah, no, I really, really love this. And I think it's true for all types of content that we create, right? Like the subject line of your emails is the most important part because you want people to open it, or the title of your blog post is the most important part because you want people to click on it. So it makes sense that you would want your intro, the first 30 seconds of what they hear, to be right, to hit that target so that they keep listening. So I think those are some really great tips. Anything else, Virginia, that you think is important structurally for financial services providers, to help them reach goals with their podcast, or are those the two big ones?
Those are the two big ones. There are other components that we talk through. Some people want to create this really like radio style show with lots of segments and lots of I don't know, just like different things happening, right? So there's a game segment, there's a interview segment, then we do a solo piece, and then whatever. Let's just start simple, even if that is your end goal, right? So maybe that is your end goal and you want this like 5 segment show and you have it all mapped out. Awesome. But guess what? You haven't created it yet because there's barriers around this massive thing you want to create. So pull it back. Let's start with like a 15-minute solo episode, and then let's add the most simple of those 5 other components, right? Build in time.
That's such great advice. I love that.
No problem.
Well, Virginia, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you?
Yeah, I am online at podcastabundance.com and then on every other platform at Podcast Abundance.
Perfect. I'll link to all of your social profiles in the show notes so that people can choose the one that they hang out most on.
Yes.
But I also just want to thank you. This was such a great conversation, just packed with valuable tips about podcasting, and financial services. So thank you so much, Virginia, for joining me. And thank you to all of my listeners on the Finance Marketing Podcast.
Thank you, Hillary. This was great.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. If you're eager to market your business in a way that feels good and actually gets results, sign up for the Finance Marketing Podcast newsletter in the show notes so you never miss another episode. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening app and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you back here next Friday.